Hello everybody and welcome to Lust Part 2. Now for those of you who haven't seen Part 1 yet, I do suggest you go to that video and watch it first. Okay then, now you must all be wondering what happened next. Did I accept this offer from my straight friend to ring up the fat chubby SM man again and, well, tackle him, the two of us, in his basement? No, I didn't. However, I had plenty of other strange experiences. Which brings us to Brussels. The clever ones amongst you will have worked out that the last video played in Brussels. So does Part 2. At the end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s, Belgian economy was booming and there was a shortage of workforces. Therefore, they went abroad and invited mainly Moroccans over to work. In the meantime, there is a third generation, many of which now have Belgian nationality. However, today the economy is slightly different and there's a lot of unemployment. And unfortunately, even Belgians from Moroccan descent don't get the same opportunities as Belgians who are not from Moroccan descent. Most of them live in poverty, and this has all the logical results. Criminality, racism, and then of course there is a cultural clash anyway because many of them are Muslim and there is a misunderstanding between communities. Moroccan boys in Brussels are often these kind of tough guy, ghetto boys and gangs, and somehow they're just absolutely irresistible to me. On this day, 5 years ago, it was the last day of a holiday I had in Brussels, and I had a few hours left before I needed to take my night train back, for which I didn't yet have a reservation. I was still going to have to try and get one on the train. I'd met up with an old friend, and we were going to have dinner in town. Now, to go from where I was staying to the centre, we took the underground. And while we were sitting there talking, I noticed this beautiful, young, handsome Moroccan boy standing by the door. He had on very light flannel kind of trousers, the loosest kind, revealing the most kind of sports trousers. You know, I just couldn't help looking at him, and as I was looking at him, all of a sudden I saw something move. Just kind of this little hobble, like a little kind of movement. And I kind of thought, oh my God, you know, he's becoming turned on. And I looked at him and this little thing, this little moved again and became a bit bigger. Luckily I was sitting down and I had a bag and I was sitting down and I just kind of moved this bag of my legs, which I'd crossed before anyway, so nobody would notice anything. But he kind of noticed that I was responding, and then all of a sudden I saw this lump in his trousers move again and get even bigger. And, you know, in my pants there was just kind of an explosion taking place. And this was kind of going back and forth until, you know, his was just completely embarrassing because these trousers, of course, couldn't really hide anything. And he had his hands full, he was carrying these big bags, so he was kind of like bending over a bit, trying to hide this and going a little bit red. I was sitting there with this friend while this was going on and we were just talking about, you know, general stuff, but I interrupted him and I just told him, my God, you know, see that boy there? There's a boy over there and I think he's getting, you know, he's getting turned on by me, and my God, I'm getting turned on as well. And this friend is a straight friend as well, actually, even a little bit macho, but he loved talking about sex. He had absolutely no hiccups about talking about sex, and he'd like be talking about women and I'd be talking about guys, and basically we got along fantastically. So I was telling him, you know, my God, this is going on, and he went, you know, well, go for it. And I said, yeah, but we're gonna, you know, we were gonna have dinner together. And he's like, I don't care, this is much more important, you know, I'll see you next time you're in Belgium. So I'm thinking, okay, well, when he gets out, you know, I guess I better follow him, but where, you know, where can we go, what can we do, you know, because I'd been staying at the apartment of some friends, but and they weren't there, but I kind of didn't feel I could just take a stranger into their apartment, you know, like that. I wouldn't do that, because I do have respect for other people's places. And so I was kind of discussing this with my friend. He's like, oh, just go in the park. We were going near a park, and apparently it was famous for people having sex in the bushes anyway, so, okay. And so, you know, we're still just sitting there, and this energy is just getting bigger and bigger, and I can see this boy kind of looking in his reflection in the window as we go through the tunnel, and kind of like wondering and looking at himself and kind of looking at me. I'm looking back at him. It's a huge fantasy for me to have, well, it was a huge fantasy for me to have sex just with a complete stranger, without even preferably saying a word to each other, and also with a young Moroccan. All of a sudden we arrived at a station, and he walked past, as he was standing by one wall, and instead of just getting out, he walked past me and, according to my friend, gave me a look, which I didn't, you know, really notice, but he said, no, he gave you a look. And I said, well, what kind of look? He said, no, that kind of look. And then he got out at the other door, so I decided, like, okay, I'm going for it. I jumped up, ran to the door, wanted to run out, but I fell with my leg between the gap, between the platform and the tube. You know how in London they always have this tape going, mind the gap? Well, they don't in Brussels. I probably wouldn't have heard it anyway. But anyway, I fell with my leg between the tube and the platform, and I was stuck there. And he actually noticed me, the boy, he was a bit further, and he kind of turned and looked. But by this time already, the doors were making their closing sound. They were going, eeeh, and I was kind of like, oh, stuck there, afraid to lose my leg. And luckily, I just pushed myself out, managed to free my leg. I was standing on the platform, felt completely embarrassed, was hesitating at the last few seconds before the door closed. What am I going to do? And I jumped back in, and the doors closed, and the tube drove off. And my friend was just going, no! Because, you know, of course, it's a bit stupid. And he said, you should have stayed. What a great way to begin conversation. You know, you could laugh about it or whatever. And anyway, so we went off and had a very nice dinner. And that was that. But then I still needed to take my night train. And of course, you know, I had been quite turned on, so I had a real kind of, well, you know how that goes with men, you have a kind of production that happens, which had not been freed yet. If you want to find out what happens, please stay tuned for part 3. Now I promise you, this will be the weirdest and most exciting story of them all. Cheerio.